Like every day I'd wake up and be like, this is day one, we're gonna not drink today. And for 365 days, it was day one. And in that moment, I thought God was real because I screamed at him to take me. Take me, take me, take me, take me. And it was silence. And then I whispered, if you're not gonna take me, I need you to help me. Finally, I let go and I surrender and I say, okay, take me, please, all of me. And everything in me just untenses at once. And it was like, he sucked it. Everything, all the pain, worry, fear, guilt, shame, uncomfort, insecurities, everything, he just took it. I want everybody to have what I have. Like, it's really beautiful. Like, this is the way I have purpose. And I always felt so lost in the world. I didn't feel like I fit in or belonged, and I didn't understand while I was here, and now I feel like I have true purpose in the world. I'm supposed to be here. He wants me here. And one day I'm going to get to go to heaven and I'm going to see all my family. And like, I truly believe that.
All right, Crystal, will you tell me your full name?
Crystal Melissa Clarke.
Where are you from?
I'm originally from Newfoundland.
What year were you born?
November 30th, 92.
Can you tell me your story?
Yes. Okay, so I always felt different. So when I was 7 years old, I have a lot of pain from my past. So when I was 7 years old, my mom and dad divorced, and I was sexually molested at 7 and 8. I moved around a lot and went to 9 different schools, and I was bullied at 8 of them. So I never felt like I fit into this world. I always carried this pain and uncomfort and shyness in me. I just felt different. And then at age 13, I started drinking and doing drugs. And while everybody else was doing it to have fun, I was doing it to numb my pain. Mm-hmm. And I did that for years. And then I moved here because I had a drug problem. But I continued to drink and I did drugs for a little bit. But yeah, I drank, and so at 25, I wanted a different way. I thought there had to be some other way than I was living, and the pain was no longer being numbed. And I was in a 10-year or in a relationship for a long time, and we were fighting a lot. And I was a terrible partner. It was like I was somebody else. I wasn't my true self, the things I'd done. And then, so I tried to get sober on my own for a year. And the more I tried, the worse that I got. And I felt like a zombie by the end of it. I couldn't barely walk or concentrate or get through the day without drinking or thinking about drinking.
How much would you drink in a given day?
At least 15 beer a day.
15 beer a day?
Yeah.
Wow.
At least. Yeah. And I did that for a nice few years.
And how much do you weigh about?
Now,
yeah.
I weigh like 120.
How much did you weigh then?
When I got sober, I was 82 pounds.
Wow.
So I was death. There was darkness in my eyes, dark circles around my eyes. It was bad. Yeah. It was really bad. And so I tried on my own to quit, and I couldn't do it. I felt like I was going insane, and then like I stopped praying. This is important too. Like my grandparents, they believed, and my great-grandmother and my grandmother, they would take me to church as a little girl. And I stopped praying at age 10 when my mom was getting beat and stuff like that. Like I just didn't think there was a God if there was that much pain that I was hiding. And then at age 10, the same year I stopped praying, was my first suicide attempt. And I tried to drown myself in a tub, and my sister walked in and caught me. So I stopped believing in God. And growing up, the only peace that I ever felt was the ocean. Was being on an ocean with my grandfather. And being by the ocean. And I'd often ponder, like, if God was real, and I would hope and think there has to be something bigger out there. And, so I was kind of open to it, but I didn't really believe. And I just carried so much pain and discomfort. Like, I suffered, and I was just 7 years old when it started to hurt. And but that was the only little bit of peace that I ever had, was the ocean and being with my grandfather in a boat.
Okay.
And then, so back in 2016, I actually moved back home, and my grandfather tried to get me to get sober. He was a recovering alcoholic. Him and, like, my mom's mom and my mom's dad, they were both alcoholics, and they were sober before I was born. But he tried to get me sober. And the last conversation that we had, he spoke to me as clear as day. And growing up, I could never really understand my grandfather. He mumbled a lot, and so we would pick words and hope to make a sentence. But that day, he spoke as clear as a whistle to me, and he said, "My darling, not a lot of people are going to understand what you're going through. Your mom will never understand it, your dad will never understand it, but I understand it." And he said, "When you go back to Alberta, I want you to go get help." He said, "There's people out there that's going to help you." And he said, "I want you to ask God for help, and he'll help you like he helped me."
Wow.
And he said it exactly word for word, just like that. And I could still remember the look in his eyes. I could see his eyes in my mind, looking at me. And he was serious, like so dead serious. And I moved back to Alberta the next day, and he passed away. I think it was like 3 months after that. And at that point, like, I was just like, I lost the only person that understood me. And I continued to drink more and more. And then, like I said, 2018, so 2 years later, I wanted to really, it was first I just wanted to ease off drinking, right? And the more I tried, the worse it got. And I would just drink more. And then after a year of complete torture, like, every day I'd wake up and be like, this is day one, we're gonna not drink today. And for 365 days, it was day one. And I couldn't get it. And in February 2019, I was on my way to commit suicide, and I fell in a snowbank. And in that moment, I thought God was real, because I screamed at him to take me. Take me, take me, take me, take me. And it was silence. And then I whispered, "If you're not going to take me, I need you to help me." And then 2 weeks later, I got sober. And I went to my doctor. And the next day, I booked a doctor's appointment. And from the doctor's appointment that I booked to the 2 weeks later, I just drank, because I didn't know how not to drink. It was complete torture every day not to drink. My insides were screaming at me. And then I went to my doctor. My last drunk was on a Monday. I had 8 double shots of vodka, and it was either 5 or 6 beer. Slept for 16 hours, cried the whole next day, went to the doctor and told him, like, I think I had, for the first time I said out loud, "I think I have a drinking problem. I don't know how to stop." And he sent me to the Aberdeen Center that allowed me to talk to a counselor. And I just spilled out my whole story of everything that happened to me for the first time. And then she wanted to send me to detox the next day. And she told me that if I showed up drunk, they might not take me. So I just cried that whole night, but I wanted a different life. Like, I was 82 pounds. I felt like death. And I part of me did want to die. Like, I didn't want to feel the way I was feeling. But I wanted something different. There had to be more in life than the pain that I felt my whole life. And so I went to detox, and the first 5 days was absolutely brutal. I wanted to kill myself. And then I started going to AA, and that gave me a little bit of hope. And people were sharing their story, and it was similar to my story. And then we started talking about God, and a God to our own understanding. And then it was like I was given these signs, and like a month after I got sober, I almost relapsed, and I was on my way to the store, and I said, God, Pop, if you're up there, if you're real, like I need you to help me, I'm ready to relapse. And I go to the regular store first to get milk, and I walk in, and it's the lunch lady from Detox, and she's just like, oh, Crystal, are you still sober and doing good? And it like freaked me out, and I walked out, and I'm just like, okay, I heard you, and I walked home, but I still didn't believe that God was real. Like I just didn't 100% believe. Like I wanted to believe, but I didn't 100% believe. But I felt like my higher power that we talk about in AA, higher power and God to our understanding, I thought that maybe it was my grandfather, and somehow his spirit was leading me. And then at 9 months sober, I found out that he got sober because he fell in a ditch in a snowbank, screaming at the sky for God to help him.
Wow.
And like, that blew my mind. And just like, little things like that were just blowing my mind, right? And in 3.5 years in my sobriety now, I started feeling happy, and like I've never felt that, like in peace. Like I started to feel those peaceful moments more and more. And like when I first got sober, I hated myself. I didn't think I was worthy of it. Like I just thought I was a really bad person. And I was just in so much pain. And so then I was given this new life, and things were getting clearer, and I was gaining weight, and I was becoming more healthy. And then 3 years into my sobriety, I tried quitting smoking. My grandfather always really wanted me to quit smoking. And day 3 or 4 after I quit smoking, I was outside and I was freaking out because I really wanted to smoke, and I'm screaming at the sky. I'm like, okay, like you angry, like you wanted me to quit smoking, like I need your help here because like I'm ready to give up. And I go back in, and I walk past one of the tables, and the guy said Nelson. And when I looked, the guy Nelson, I looked at his watch, and my grandfather's name was Nelson, and the guy's watch was identical to my grandfather's. And it was like my grandfather was like right there nudging me, like, keep going, you're doing good. And so it was just like little signs like that kept me going. And when in sobriety, I always worried about my first birthday, my first Christmas, and blah blah blah. And the day before my birthday, I got 9 months sober. It was my 9 months, and that's when I found out about my grandfather, about how he fell in the snowbank. And then at 10 months was on Boxing Day, was like just after Christmas. I just celebrated my first sober Christmas. So these little wins was keeping me going, right? And in 3.5 years in, so now we're at September 3rd, around there of last year, 2022. And me and my ex-fiance, we were fighting, and like we had very different views on the world, about how we thought about marriage, and and I always kind of wanted to raise my kids in a church, and not that I even still didn't believe then, but I felt like maybe my kids would be in a church, and so all like my moral values was being tested. And then for days I couldn't sleep and I couldn't eat, and so I get to work. It's on a Saturday, and I felt like I was leaning on somebody. I was so tired, so exhausted. Like I've never felt exhausted before. The whole week I was so stressed out. I didn't know what to do, if I was going to leave him or stay. He was the only person that really stuck by my side for this long, and I didn't want to leave him. I knew he loved me and I loved him, and but at the same time, like something didn't feel right. There was something that was off, and I was really stressed out, and I couldn't sleep. I would go in bed at night, and my mind would just race, and I couldn't sleep properly. And so I went to work on the Saturday, and went on my break, and I ate like half a banana, 2 eggs, and 2 bacon. That's all I could get down in me. And then I go to rest my head down, And I'm just about to fall asleep, and somebody come and put their cup or something in front of me, and it jolted me. And now my whole body is like in this panic state, like just freaking out. Everything's crawling out of me. I'm screaming, I'm crying. My manager comes and he asks me, "Are you okay?" And I said, "No, no, no, no." He's like, "I'm going to bring you outside." And I look at him, I'm like, "I think I'm having a panic attack." And inside, I'm just like, "Okay, just get outside and you're going to ground yourself. You're just going to breathe and you're going to be okay." And I get outside and I take out this big, deep breath air. And as I exhale, my whole body collapsed. And my other manager, Mimi, caught me, and she literally came out of nowhere. And like I'm like this, and I'm shaking, and I'm crying, I'm screaming, I'm asking for help, and they're telling me, "You need to calm down," and like everything in me was like, "You've had enough. This is enough." Everything was coming up now, like my moral values, every pain that I ever felt in my life, the discomfort, it was all being reached to the surface. And like I am like shaking, my core is shaking, and I felt like I was dying. Like my whole being was snapping, every part of me. And they kept telling me, like, "You need to calm down." And I'm just like, I can't. And then the next thing I know, like I'm on the ground and I am begging and I'm shaking and I'm begging now for God, "If you're real, to help me now. Like I need you now. Like if this is, I need help." And they pick me up and they bring me into the banquet room, and I fall on the ground again, and they're asking me, "Who do you want?" And I say, "An ambulance," because I thought I was dying. And my manager is saying, "I don't want to call her an ambulance because they're going to sedate her and they're going to give her something and sedate her." And in my mind, because I could barely speak at this point. There's just words coming out.
Yeah.
And in my mind, I'm saying, "That's right, Mimi. That's not what I want." Yes, it's like Mimi's vouching for me now. Like I'm like, "Yes, that's right. That's not what I want." And Chris said, "Do you want Jordan?" And that's my ex. And I screamed. I'm like, "No, no, 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 no," because this is like way deeper than just me and Jordan now. This goes to everything I ever went through. And like I was a yes person. I said yes to everything, whatever, even if it made me uncomfortable. I was a people pleaser. I just let people do whatever they want to me, like touch me, make me uncomfortable, whatever people wanted, I did. And this was all coming up. Like everything I ever felt, every negative emotion, the fear, the lostness I felt in my life, everything. And then they're asking me, "Who do you want me to call? And who do you want?" And I said, "I want my mom." And then inside, because I can't speak, I said, "I want my dad, I want my sister, and my sponsor, like my AA sponsor." And then I said, and everybody's gone. Like they're in Newfoundland, my stepdad's working away, my dad's there, my sister's home, my mom, and my sponsor's out of town for the weekend. And I said, "No one is here." And then I heard him. And he said, "I am here. You just need me." It was like a soft, calm voice. Just said, "I am here. You just need me." And it freaked me out. And I said, "Mimi, I need you to pray. Pray, 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 pray." I just said, "Pray, pray, 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 pray." And she put on this prayer in the background. And like a YouTube prayer in the background, and then she begins praying in her language. And I didn't know what she was saying, but it's like I knew exactly what she was doing. Like she was getting me to open my heart to Jesus, and I felt that because I'm like fighting him, right? And like there's just pain just trying to rip from my body, and it's like everything in me is torture. And she's praying, and like I could feel the prayer like comforting me in some way. And then I heard him again, and he said, "You need to let go, child. You need to surrender. Like I'm gonna take it. I'm here. You just need to let go." And I'm like fighting him, like my whole body. And I swear, like there was angels in the room with me, and they were like holding my legs down, and like his right hand was on my right shoulder, and his left hand was on Mimi, and he was walking her through the prayer, and he had his hand on my shoulder, he had a hand on me, and like I could feel him ripping it, and I don't know why I felt like there was 5 angels, but I felt like there was 5 angels by me. Like I still don't know what that means today, but I just feel like there was 5 angels there, and they were holding my legs down, and the earth beneath me felt like it was shaking, like an earthquake, and I'm still fighting him. Like my whole body is fighting him, and then Mimi starts like splashing water on my head, and I think, oh right, I'm in my body. I'm here. I'm alive. That's right. And then like God is still saying, you need to let go, child. Let go. Surrender. And then now I'm just like, my body's not shaking as much, but like my insides, like it's not like this. It's now like kind of like this, and like the pain is just absolute torture. I can't even describe. Like it was unreal pain coming out of me. And finally, I let go and I surrender and I say, okay, take me, please, all of me. And I just, everything in me just untenses at once. And it was like, he sucked it. Everything, all the pain, worry, fear, guilt, shame, uncomfort, insecurities, everything, he just took it. Like he was just pulling it out now. And the more he was pulling it, it felt like the more I was giving myself to him, because it started to feel good. And then once it was all gone, this peace washed over me like I never felt before. This peace and this comfort and this love. And now I'm crying in like gratitude. I just feel so comforted and just like in complete awe. And I'm saying in my mind, like, you're really real and you're here. And then like the YouTube prayer in the background is answering me, and it's saying, you've been in God's waiting room. Like God was waiting for you. He wasn't gonna wait for you after the pain. He was always gonna walk you through it, right? And then I was praising in my mind. I'm just like, yes, yes, for the first time in my life, like I understood praise. And I was just like, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, right? And then I was able to calm down, and like as I'm calming down, like doubts was coming in my mind, like, but what about marriage? And the YouTube prayer, it keeps answering me. As soon as questions would come up, like that, it was answering me immediately. Okay. It was really cool. And then I was it was calm, and I was okay. And then I was able to sleep for a little bit. And I slept for like maybe a couple hours, and then I woke up, and I never felt more awake in my whole life. Like I woke up and I was just like, I know the truth. I know the truth. It's real. Like heaven's angels, it's all real. It's true. And like I felt like almost like a third eye was opening, like I was on a spiritual realm, or like I just felt new, like clear, shiny, new, pure, white, clear. I was me, 100% me. I didn't care what anybody else think of me anymore. God had me. God was right there. I knew it was him. And then I knew what I was supposed to do. And the next day, I went home that night, and I called my mom and dad and told them I'm okay, everything's gonna be okay. And I knew exactly what I was supposed to do. And the next day, I went to work, and it was like I could see people for the very first time. Like I look in their eyes and I could see their souls.
Wow.
And I always had this thing with kids. I love kids so much. And I think it's because I don't want kids to hurt how I hurt when I was so little, and I want to protect them. And the innocence of children, like it's true, like because the world starts to get to them around like 5 and 6 years old. The darkness, the trauma, the everything. Like before that, they're so innocent and pure and loving, and like and that's how God sees us, right? Yeah. And I was at work, and I was going around this corner, and this little boy was hanging over the partition, and he looked at me and he's like, hi, and I looked at him and I was like, hi, and I came around and I poured the parents coffee, and she's like, did he just say hi to you? And I was like, yeah. And she was like, he doesn't talk to like anybody. And I'm just like, I know, I knew, right? And I could see the hurt people had. Like I could see dark, like some people were like really dark, and other people were just a little bit dark, and like they're hurt, right? And there was just like so many broken people in the world, but God is like trying so hard to get to us and heal us and stuff, right? And so that was Sunday, and I went home, and I ended the relationship with Jordan, and it was really hard that day on the Sunday, right? The next day that happened,
No, you were 10 years together.
Almost 10 years, 9.5 years together.
Okay.
So God came to me on Saturday. Sunday, I went to work. I ended it with Jordan, and it was really hard. Cried the whole night. I still couldn't really sleep. I maybe slept like 3 hours that night, and but I felt God with me the whole day. He, like, whatever I needed, He had provided it for me. That night, I slept downstairs in the basement, and I said, God, like, I'm really, can you bring me some comfort? And not even a minute later, my cat came down and crawled right up on my chest. And I was like, I knew God brought me my cat. And usually my cat sleeps on my legs, but that time he slept on my chest, right? And so in the next morning, also too, on that Saturday, I woke up and Jordan was trying to talk to me, and I felt like all I needed to do was get to work that day. That was my task. I just needed to get to work. That's how I felt. Like, even though I should have called in because I was barely slept and I felt really bad, I just felt like my task was to get to work, and it was because I needed to get to work for that to happen.
Okay.
And then so Sunday I went to work, broke up with Jordan, and then Monday I opened the restaurant, and now, like, my exhaustion is really setting in. And
from not sleeping.
for not sleeping, it's been like almost a full week now, of almost maybe like 5 or 6 days maybe we're on of not sleeping. And I felt like I was leaning on somebody. And I think God was like carrying me, like that footprints in the sand poem.
Yeah.
Like, I felt like I was leaning on somebody. He was pushing me. I served a couple tables, and it was really hard. Like, I put all my focus on just like staying alert, because I felt like I was about to drop on my knees. And I went on my break, and this time I couldn't eat anything. I tried to eat 2 pieces of bacon, and it would just come right back up. And so I was like, I'm gonna rest my head, rest my eyes. And as soon as I put my head on my arm, my body started shaking. And I felt myself go into like a shock, and I could feel my body shutting down. And so I get up slowly and walk to the office. The office is just around the corner. I grabbed my manager's arm, and I looked at him, and I said, you need to call an ambulance now. I need medical care now. And like panic came in his eyes. I'm like, you guys are gonna be okay. You just need to call me an ambulance. And I sat on the floor, and I'm trying to focus on my 5 senses to keep myself alert, because I'm like drifting off like this, and I'm shaking, and I could like just feel myself going into it like some kind of shock, and my chest is like sharp pain, hurting, and I'm starting to get terrified, because I'm afraid if I shut my eyes, I'm not going to wake back up, right? Mm-hmm. And so I could hear him calling an ambulance, and I'm holding on to his foot. I'm on the ground, and I'm holding on to his foot, and I'm concentrating on what his foot feels like, and I'm concentrating on breathing. And it's like I could feel the ambulance getting closer and closer. And like, I looked up at him, and I was like, you're going to be here any minute, any minute. And I said that 5 times, and they were there. And like, they came in, and I jolted up, and like I grabbed the guy's arms or his shoulders, and I said, my body is shutting down. I haven't ate or slept barely in a week. I need help now. And they were like, are you on any drugs? Because like, I look like I'm crazy, right? And I'm like, no, I'm not. Like, I'm not on any drugs. Like, I'm sleep deprived. I need your help, right? And they're carrying me out, and I'm like, he's here. And they're like, who's here? And I said, God's here. And they looked at me funny, and I put my head down, and I'm like, oh, Crystal, that's only for you to know that. They're not supposed to know that, right? And so they bring me out, and they bring me out in the ambulance, and I think I collapsed at one point maybe by the door, and they pick me up, and I get in the ambulance, and I'm like, I'm shaking, I could barely stay alert, and I let go for just a second. I couldn't hold on any longer, and I let go, and everything went dark, and God was there. And I said, what are you doing? I said, you saved me, and now you're going to take me? And he said, no, my child. He said, I'm not going to take you. You have so much to do. You have to go back. And he said, when you go back, they're going to ask you questions, and you need to answer them. I said, okay, bring me back. And he said, okay. And I woke back up too. So I started shouting my answers at them, and it's like I knew, like my Alberta healthcare card number, I knew it off by heart. I could see it in my mind, and so and then they asked me, can you take an Ativan? And I asked God, like, is that okay? And he said yes. And I was like, yeah, that's okay. And they're asking me, do you see anything? I was like, nope. Like, because I knew that that seeing God and hearing God was just for me to help get me through. And I knew that they were going to get me to the hospital safely. And they did. And when I got into, in an emergency, I started crying, and I knew I was around medical equipment, so I knew I was going to be okay. And I was just like, I'm going to be okay, I'm going to be okay. And I said, we're all going to be okay. And then Trevor, the ambulance guy, he's like, what do you mean we're going to be okay? And I'm like, my 7-year-old, my 9-year-old, my 10-year-old, my 18, 19, 25, we're all going to be okay now, right? And I was like, I'm ready to share my story. And then I try to start sharing it to him, but I get super winded. And I'm like, you know what, I need rest. And so he left the room, and then I felt my grandfather there. And I swear he kissed my forehead, and he told me, everything is going to be all right. You're going to be all right now, my darling. And I could feel him leave. It was like a whew, like he just left. And I know that he said that. I understand today he meant that I was going to be okay because I found God, because I had God now. I was in God's hands, that his work was done, because he was with me for my whole sobriety, and he led me to God, right? And then so I was able to sleep, and then I woke up, and there was an empty chair beside me, and I said, God, I know you're with me spiritually, but can you send me someone physically? And then so I got up, I called the Denny's number, that's where I work, and got my manager to go in my phone, get my stepdad's number, who was working in Fort St. John, so it was a couple hours away. And I thought he was on his way, but it wasn't his Monday to come home, so I asked him, can you send me my Aunt Sandy? And my mom was on a 3-way call too, and she's like, I'll call all the family and see who can make it. I was like, no, Aunt Sandy's gonna come. I need Aunt Sandy. And she was like, I'll call. I was like, okay. And then I went back, I laid down, and I woke up to the nurse saying daughter, and I knew instantly it was my stepdad on the phone. And he was coming to tell me my Aunt Sandy was on the way. Yeah. So I got on the phone, and he's like, Aunt Sandy's on the way. I said, I know. And I just knew, like I just knew. And then I went back to sleep, and then they woke me up again to bring me to my room. And my Aunt Sandy was there, and my Aunt Sandy's a believer. So I knew she would understand what I was going through, and that's why I wanted her. So I stayed in the hospital for like 5 days and whatnot, and and they brought me to the mental health ward, and I was like, I'm not crazy, but I was sleep deprived, and I needed sleep, right? And so they had to give me sleeping pills to make me sleep and all that, and I needed rest and stuff, right? So that's why they kept me there, and then God's been with me ever since. Like, my faith is just so strong, and like I moved out on my own, and I started read, like I've never read the Bible until this year, and I started reading the Bible, and it all adds up. Like it says about how the angels came and opened the tomb for Jesus, and it was an earthquake. Like, that's what it was. It was an earthquake. God, and there was like another verse about God's rigorous right hand. Like, it was his right hand on me, this peace that washed over me, like just the touch of him healed me. It all just adds up. Like, it's just incredible. And when I moved in, I wrote scriptures on my mirror and stuff like that. And there was 2 months that I went through this I was depressed, I was lonely, but I knew God was real, and that was my light. Even though there was so much darkness, I felt darkness, I knew God was my light, and I just needed to stay focused on him. And he would get me out of bed in the morning. I would turn over, and I would read what was on my mirror, and that would help me get up out of bed. It was like he'd help me put that on my mirror to get me up, and like there's just so much. And then, like, as I'm reading the Bible, it just all adds up. Like, everything that happened to me, like it's like it's in the Bible. Like, it's like I know this before I even read it. And I carried this Bible around with me for 13 years before I even opened it. Something in me always told me to keep this Bible, and like I was always meant to open it. Like I never believed, and like I am a true believer. Like he was really there. Like he's real, and he's love, and he like we don't always understand what he's doing. He's so powerful. Like to be in his presence, like my human body could barely stand it. Like, and like his voice was so gentle and soft and still, and it says something like that in the Bible about his stillness, his softness, and like, and he, you know, people will say like, oh, well, if there's a God, like, you know, we wouldn't have wars and blah, 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 and, you know, he could heal the whole world, and he can heal the whole world, but I don't think that's what he wants. He wants us to go to him. Like, it's kind of like you're born into your family, and you have to love your family because they're family, and you love your family, right? But those people that you choose to be family, that you go to, like, it's different, right? Like, God wants us to love him, to go to him, right? To love him like that. Like, he is like everything to me. Like, and he just wants us to be kind and loving to each other. And I feel so different. Like, I have this calmness to me, and this peace and this love. Like, nobody loves me like he loves me. Like, and nobody gives me peace like he gives me peace. Like, I just feel so different. Like, but me, I feel like me, and like, I was never meant to fit in the world. Like, I was always meant to stand with God. Like, this was always going to be the path for me. And my mom, she had a miscarriage before me and a miscarriage after me, and they told her if she tried again that she probably wouldn't survive. And I always wondered, why me? Why did I get picked out of those three? And now I believe, like, God chose me because he knew that I was going to survive it all. And I was going to go to him and be his child and share it with the world. And I don't care what anybody thinks of me. Like, I have God. Like, I don't, not that I don't need anybody else. Like, I have him. Like, he protects me and supports me. And like, before, like, I used to worry about money and the things I had, and none of that matters to me as long as I got enough to get me through and enough to give. Like, I don't look at the world stuff anymore. Like, I just look for him, and I just have so much peace in him, and like, I just feel healed.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really beautiful, and I want the whole world. I wish the whole world could have it, what I have, and to be in his presence. Like, you know, like, it's just so beautiful. Like, we don't have to hurt. We could love each other and protect each other, and I don't know, like, I just feel really different, and I love the world. I've always loved the world. I've always loved people. Even though I hurt so much, I still cared about people so much because I never wanted them to hurt like I hurt, you know, and now I love them even more. And now I just want to give even more kindness and love to the world.
Yeah.
And make them feel accepted and be able to show their true self and their true form. Because I feel like I'm 100% crystal now.
Yeah.
Like, before, I felt like I was down in there, and there was darkness and all this stuff buried on top. But now I feel like this is me, and I'm not afraid to show who I am. And, you know, because God loves me for me. Like,
Amen.
yeah.
Do you have a favorite Bible verse?
I have a few. So the first one I ever learned off by heart was Proverbs 3:5-6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your paths. And that one is because I learned how to trust him 100%.
Yeah.
Because I didn't for so long. I didn't believe. Now I do believe. We definitely can't understand what God's doing because he is very complex. Humans can't understand what God is doing, right? But if I look to him, he's going to send me exactly where I go. If I obey him and what he wants me to do, I'm going to be protected, and I'm going to go exactly where I need to go. And he's going to like lead me in peace. And there's another one in Psalms about like leading you. Oh, Psalms 23, like the Lord is my shepherd, I have all I need. He leads me to rest in green meadows, and he leads me beside peaceful streams. He renews my strength. Like, you know, even when I walk through the darkest valley, I will not be afraid, for you are close beside me. He's right there beside me always. He's always got a hand in my life now. Like I trust him and what he's going to do. And there's just so many, and like it all really like adds up. And every time I read the Bible, like I cry, because I get it, and it makes sense for everything that I went through. And like if I'm going through something, if I'm feeling low and I start reading my Bible, it brings me to a page I need to hear exactly. It's like he's talking right to me, right? And it just all makes sense. Like, you know, and like John 15:27, I am leaving you with a gift, peace of mind and heart. And the peace I give is a gift the world cannot give. So don't be troubled or afraid. I never had peace in this world. I look for the world for so much. Like I've been on every high that you can imagine with drugs and everything else. You know, money and sex and drugs and alcohol. Everything the world could give me, it can't give me what God could give me. It can't give me that peace and comfort and love. And like, it's just amazing. Like, it's unreal. And like, what's this one? You have shown me the way of life. Will fill me with joy of your presence, right? Like, there's so many. There's so many. I received my message from no human source, and no one taught me. Instead, I received it by direct revelation from Jesus Christ. That is, I don't know how to say that. Galatians 1:12. Like, no human person told me any of this, and I just experienced it. And then I read it, and then I understand it. I believe this because I lived it first, right? And then I read it, and I'm just like, oh, it's confirmation. Like, that's what happened. You know, like.
Wow. What do you think the future has for you? Or what do you think God has in your future?
Well, I'm not perfect. I still have sin. So I think he still has a lot of work to do in me. But I know that he's going to protect me, and he only has what's his will. And it's way better than my will, because my will landed me up in a snowbank, almost dead, right? And that's why I trust him, because he, if I let him control my life, it leads me to peace and comfort and brings me blessings upon blessings. He gives me everything that I need. You know, so I don't know what he has exactly. I just know that I trust him with it, and when he says no, it probably means I have something better for you.
Yeah.
Right? Like if something's taken away, it's probably like, this isn't meant for you, I have something better for you. Okay. Yeah, and I just know that he has me, protects me, and he's teaching me, and I'm just trying to get better and be a better person and live how he wants me to live, and to give, and to love, you know, and to help people. Like, I want everybody to have what I have. Like, it's really beautiful. Like, this is the way I have purpose. And I always felt so lost in the world. I didn't feel like I fit in or belonged, and I didn't understand while I was here. And now I feel like I have true purpose in the world. I'm supposed to be here. He wants me here. And one day I'm going to get to go to heaven, and I'm going to see all my family. And, like, I truly believe that. Like, and I didn't before. But he showed me. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Crystal.
Thank you.
That's an interview. That's good.
I can't wait to see it.